All right, as I continue to look at where rosters are, where they're going to be, Columbus. I don't necessarily think Columbus is done, but they might be. So we've still got Pierre-Luc Dubois out there as an RFA, right? So we're not going to see any kind of offer sheet. I know people are going to go, oh, Shannon mentioned no offer sheet. That means there's going to be one. Nah, if I thought I had that kind of power, I would have mentioned offer sheets days ago. So really, with 9.225 million in cap space, they have cap space. They could make another move if they chose to. And it feels like they made all this cap space with the idea of adding, and they may not have got the additions that they necessarily had in mind first for the first place, right? I don't think the Anderson trade necessarily was something that when we ended the postseason that they thought they were going to do, but we get there. So when we look at this overall lineup, one thing that stands out right away is Liam Foudy. If he can continue what he started this year, they're in really good shape. Columbus is in excellent shape. If he struggles in his first full year in the NHL, that could be a problem. Dubois, of course, restricted free agent. They need him to feel comfortable, and the potential is there. I know when I talked about guys having breakthrough years, there were comments like, "Hey, where's Dubois? Why isn't Dubois on the list?" Because it feels like maybe this is right about where his ceiling could be, and again, maybe there's more explosive scoring there, but we haven't seen it yet. Bjorkstrand, I think, is capable of a 30-goal season. Absolutely. Foligno, Domi, Atkinson. The thing that stands out here is Domi's been added down the middle with the idea that he should be the second line center. If he struggles, and I still think he's probably better off as a winger, but if they manage to make him an excellent center, then there you go. But it's something that Arizona struggled with, and if in Montreal he had been that really good, strong center that Columbus thinks he is, if he had played that way in Montreal, I would argue he'd still be in Montreal, and they'd be looking at maybe Kotkaniemi playing on the wing with him. Think along the lines of what Nugent Hopkins and Draisaitl have done in Edmonton, where they've been on the wings, they've been center, and again, you can't have too many centers. So the fact that Montreal moved him, brought in Anderson, showed that Montreal felt they needed a change. But Domi may have needed this change as well. So we'll see how he does. It's going to go a long way to deciding whether or not Columbus is in the playoffs for the fifth straight season, which would add to their current record of 4. 4 is a record. Columbus has been mediocre for a very long time. Never quite that bad, but not good enough. And they've only won one round, of course, in their history. That was last year over Tampa. They want to get into contention and they want to stay there. Now, Jenner is an interesting one in that Boone Jenner, I think our expectations with Jenner have slowly dropped over the years. And now there's not a lot of pressure on him because he's not expected to be in that top 6. Mikko Koivu, Riley Nash. And then the one that's interesting to me is Texier. Now, I show him on the 4th line, sure. Do I think he ends up on the 4th line? Probably not. But who does he bump down? Does he end up on the right side and bump down Nash? Probably not. Grigorenko? Is Grigorenko going to be on that 4th line? As he returns to the NHL? Is he the ace in the hole for Columbus? And Bemstrom on the right side. Bemstrom, he has the offensive potential as well. There's enough young offensive potential here for Columbus that they could be quite fascinating to watch. Then you've got Robinson, Sherwood, Stenlund. I liked Stenlund in his appearances last year. Matteau, McInnes, and of course, Gerby. Gerby, at some point in time, probably comes up and plays here and there, but he's a guy that you can send to the AHL. You know he'll be able to clear waivers, and that when you need him and he comes up, he'll probably be pretty good for you. So this is overall a really good forward group. And again, I'm not committing to who's going to be on what line because I don't do that in these videos. If the NHL comes out next week and says this is for sure our start date, we've got this all figured out, this is what we're doing, then I'll get into like official season previews. These are just looking at rosters and just, hey, what do you think? And again, we don't even know necessarily with this cap space they have left and teams looking at dumping cap money off, we don't know that Columbus isn't going to add. And it's a team that doesn't necessarily need a forward, but they might add. Now, on the blue line, you've got Werenski, you've got Jones, you've got Gavrikov, you've got Savard. That's your top 4. And then how do you round that out? Does Peak end up playing? Harrington, Kukan, Gabriel Carlson, Glendening. And there's a lot of pieces here. The bottom 2 could end up being any combination of, I would say, Harrington, Kukan, Gabriel Carlson, or Peak. But they're going to be good. They're going to be solid. And again, with the cap space, maybe they add a defenseman. Maybe they add a top 6 defenseman. Because, again, there are teams looking at dumping off money. And if you can add a piece, and, hey, look, we got a draft pick, too, because we have the cap space, and they sent them to us. And, again, that $9.225 million will get eaten into by Dubois, but I don't think Dubois is going to have that much that they won't still have cap space left over. I think maybe, $6 million for Dubois, probably? Maybe 6.5? What's Dubois worth? Looking at the contracts that are out there, I would say 6.5 probably. And then their goaltending. Their goaltending was absolutely fantastic throughout the season. It was unexpected, and I would expect some more from that this year. So I would be very surprised if their goaltending isn't really, really solid again. Where you've got Korpisalo, you've got Merzlikins. Both of them signed extensions, and both of them are signed for very, very reasonable cap hits. And then you've got Kivlenieks at number 3. He showed in a call-up. He's not too shabby either. So this is a pretty good lineup. The question I have with Columbus is maybe the same one we had last year. So last year they come out of knocking out Tampa. It looks like they're making inroads, and then they get knocked out in the next round by Boston. But they're heading in the right direction. This year they get knocked out by Tampa. Tampa had to work overtime to knock them out, right? So that 5 overtime game, I think, is really probably where they lose it. That's after they knocked out Toronto in the play-in round. So you may very well look at them and say, well, they've won 2 rounds because they knocked out Toronto. And it's easily forgotten because then Tampa just took them out. But it showed in that series that Korpisalo is excellent. Korpisalo is a fantastic goaltender. And it will be interesting to see if with Merzlikins and Korpisalo if they spend the whole year there together, because it has to be tempting on some level for Kekalainen to look at the rest of the roster and say we might be able to improve somewhere else if we make that move in net. And I think, to me, when I look at this team, I like the wings. I'm still not 100% convinced down the middle because, again, you've got Dubois, you've got Domi. They add Koivu, right? From Minnesota, which looks solid. Grigorenko comes back over from the KHL. But that's 3 of your top 4 centers were not Columbus Blue Jackets team members your last game. The odds of all 3 of them just fitting in seamlessly, it gets a little bit dicey. And one thing that you have to consider too is that in regular training camps and preseasons and all that wonderful stuff, normally you have a while. And what we're looking at in general in the NHL is a training camp of likely 2 weeks, and then we get right into it. Now, whether or not they have the preseason games or they just go right into the regular season, we'll see. I would not be surprised if they have maybe like 1 preseason game, maybe 2, and they say we're just going to go right into it. Because with this schedule, they're going to be looking at probably a compressed schedule due to current situations and wanting to get back to starting next season in October. So we'll see. If Foodie's for real, if Texier makes that next step, and Bemstrom does as well, this team's going to scare some people. This team's going to be far more impressive than they might look right now. And if Grigorenko comes back with that fire lit in him again, he has capability of scoring points in the NHL. Just struggled the last time he was here. So we'll see. Because again, for me with Columbus, if we're in the regular divisions, it's the Metro. And I would think even if they revamp the divisions for this coming season, it's going to be tough for Columbus to make it. It's going to be really, really dicey. But we saw last year that with Tortorella behind the bench, don't bet against him. And with this goaltending, don't bet against him either. So what do you think of Columbus? Are they closer to where they need to be? Are they middle of the pack? Or where do you see Columbus this coming season? Where in the standings do you see them finishing? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support, and for helping this channel get to 169,000 plus in the subscriber column. Thanks for that, and I will talk to you again soon.